Hakadosh Boker Or Shavua Tov. Masechet Bava Kamma Daf Gimel Amud Aleph 73a1. The Gemara was asking what is the nafkamina in the two different opinions of Rava. If you remember, there was a machloket of Rava and Abaye when you found a false witness, an ed zomem. You disqualify them lemafre'a, which means that you disqualify them from the beginning, from when they testified, or only mikan ulaba. And we brought down that there was a whole thing, and then we said that you should know that Rava actually holds like Abaye, which means that technically speaking, it should be lemafreya. Now, if it's lemafreya, that means all the testimonies that he gave from then until now, let's say he did it Rosh Chodesh Nisan until Rosh Chodesh Iyar, it's going to be disqualified. But the reasoning of Rava was because of Pseida de Lekuchot. Pseida de Lekuchot means that people are going to come and they're going to lose out. So then what we did was we asked what's the difference between the two different reasons, and we went and we said that there were two different witnesses against one of the Ed Zomems and two different witnesses against the other Ed Zomem. So therefore it's not two against two. It's always two against one. Because remember, according to Rava, he wanted to say it's only Mikan Ulaba because it's a chidush that the Torah chicha, because it's two against two. Why do you believe the second two? Maybe the first two. Tizkor, yesh לך שתי עדים שמעידים. שתי עדים שאומרים, עמנו הייתם. למה אתה מאמין את השתיים האחרונים? זה שתיים כנגד שתיים. למה? גזירת הכתוב. זה הסיבה היחידה. גזירת הכתוב. So says Rava, but if you have two against one, זאת אומרת, יש לך שתי עדים שאומרים שהעד זומם הזה, עמנו הייתם בהונולולו. והשתיים האחרים הם אומרים שהעד זומם השני, הוא היה איתנו באיפה? איפה אתה? חיפה. בחיפה, אז זה עכשיו, זה לא גזירת הכתוב anymore. Okay? So we went and we said that there's not going to be a chidush, and also we went and we said, so therefore the halacha was like Abaye biyal kegam, and that's how we finished on the two dots. So on Friday, we finished on the two dots, which is basically the halacha is like Abaye and Ya'al kegam. Remember, b'derech klal when there's machloket Rava and Abaye, we pass like Rava. But the ayn of Ya'al Kegam is Ed or Edim, and therefore we paskin like Abaye that lemafreya it becomes disqualified. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, two dots. We are 2, 4, 6, 8 lines down. No, 2, 4, 6, 8 lines down. Tanan. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah. Ganav al pi shnayim v'tavach u'machar al piem. If you steal with two witnesses, meaning two witnesses are testifying on the stealing. The tavach u'machar al piem, and then the same two witnesses are going to be the witnesses of tvicha u'mechira, of slaughtering or selling it. V'nimseu zomemim, and then they become edim zomemim, meshalmim et hakol. They have to pay everything. Ma ze everything? Hakol. Gam Bava Kamma. So says the Gemara, my love, are we not talking about she'idu la gneva, that they first testified on the gneva, v'chazru ve'idu la tvicha, and then they testified on the tvicha, v'uzmu la gneva, and then they became edim zomim on gneva, v'chazru v'uzmu ala tvicha, and then they became edim zomim on the tvicha. Now v'yisal gadad, now if you're going to tell me lemafreya u'nifsad, the mafreya they become psulim. Honey, these guys, given the zumu le gneva, once they become edim zomim on the gneva, iglai mintel mafreya de chi'asdu al tvicha psulin havu. So therefore they became pasul on the tvicha. So my mishalmim al tvicha. So why do they have to pay on the tvicha? Everyone understood the case? One more time. Are you listening? Two witnesses, right? Two witnesses meidim al gneva. The same two witnesses are meidim al tvicha mechira. The tvicha mechira has to be done obviously after the gneva. You cannot testify on the tvicha before the gneva. So first it has to be on the gneva, and then on the tvicha mechira. So they come and they say, okay, this guy stole. They stop. And then afterwards they come and they say, by the way, we also testify that he slaughtered and sold it. So now what happens? They became edim zomim on the gneva. And then later on, they became edim zomim on the tvicha. So ask the Gemara, if they already became edim zomim on the gneva, that's it, they're disqualified on the tvicha. So why do you tell me now that they have to pay for the tvicha? They were edim zomim, they were pasul. בדיוק, אז אתה לא מקבל את זה בכלל. You don't, yeah? Okay, makes sense. Okay. So Amni, so they said, Hacha maskirin, what are we dealing with? Don't shuzmu al tvicha techila. So they became edim zomim on the tvicha first. So if it was the exact opposite, they didn't become edim zomim on the gneva. They became edim zomim on the tvicha. So therefore, that's why they have to mishalmim et hakol. So says the Gemara, but 1 second. Amri, but they said, sof ki hadre mitzameh gneva, but when they become afterwards edim zomim on the gneva, igla minta de chiasad otvicha psulinavu. So therefore it comes out that it becomes revealed that when they testified on the tvicha, they were already pasul. So amay mishal metvicha. So what do they have to pay on the tvicha? V'hilchata, what is halacha? Sheidu bevat achat. They had to testify at the same time. Yeah, v'uzmu, and then they became edim zomemim. So therefore, since they became like that, so therefore it's a completely different halacha because they became edim zomim bevat achat. Beoto zman, וממילא הוזמו, זה bevat achat. אז בגלל זה משלמים את הכול. Because you're right.
What the first one they said?
Doesn't matter, but it's the same edut. No, but it's the same edut. The same edut. אנחנו רצינו לעשות הפרד, פסק, בין עדות לעדות. ואז ממילא, אם אני מבטל עדות אחד ולא עדות שנייה, אז גמרנו, הכל, זהו, אני לא יכול לעשות כלום. עכשיו הוא אומר, זה היה באותו מעמד. באותו מעמד, באותו עדות, אז הכל אותו דבר. אז בגלל זה, הוא יהיה יוזמו, כן, ויהיה חייב. So says the Gemara, למה כתנאים? Why don't I just say it's a מחלוקת תנאים? Why? היו שניים מעידים, right? There were two witnesses that testified, sheganav. Vehen mi'idin oto shetavach, and they were the same ones that testified that he did also the tvicha. V'uzmu la gneva, and they became edim zomim on the gneva. Edut shebatla miktzata batla kula. Says the Gemara, right? The second that the edut, part of the edut becomes batel, the entire edut becomes batel. Meaning that's a general rule in edut. Im ani ba lebeti, v'ani omer sheben adam aleph hu lo יודע מה, הוא גנב. ובן אדם ב' הוא גנב. אפילו אם זה צווי דינים, זה שתי הלכות שונות, בגלל אני מדבר על בן אדם א', בן אדם ב', ברגע שאני מבטל מקצת העדות, בטלה כל העדות. למה? בגלל סוף סוף עדות שבטלה מקצתה, בטלה כולה. זאת אומרת, אני לא יכול להגיד, זה אמת וזה לא אמת. זה או הכל אמת, או הכל לא אמת. אני לא יכול לעשות את זה.
אין credibility, ברור.
Exactly. So says the Gemara, הוזמו על התביכה. So if they became now, הוזמו על התביכה and not on the גנבה, הוא משלם תשלומי כפל, he's going to pay תשלומי כפל, והם משלמים, and they're going to pay תשלומי, right, שלושה. What does it mean? Again, remember, every single time we said שלושה, זה לאו דווקא שלושה, זה יכול להיות גם שניים, בגלל תזכור, תשלומי 4 ו5, זה 4 או 5, שור ושה. כן? זאת אומרת, שור זה 5, שה זה 4. עכשיו, אבל, but, if you're going to tell me that the Ganav already paid kefel, that means he paid double, so you don't have to pay anymore 4 and 5 times, all you're going to pay is 2 or 3 times. Because if the Ganav shilem et keren, which is the principal, והכפל, which is the kaful, so therefore, it's only 2 more, or 3 more. או עוד 2, או עוד 3. בגלל זה 4 ו5 סך הכל. זה לא 4 ו5, 4 or 5 times excluding the keren and the kefel. So therefore, it's only going to be 2 or 3. So Amar Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef, one of these words, bishte eduyot, only if it's 2 completely separate eduyot. Aval be'edut echad, but if it's going to be an edut echad, edut shebatla miktzata batla kula. Right? So therefore, it's going to be batel miktzata batel kula. So says the Gemara, my bishte eduyot, what does it mean now that there's going to be 2 different eduyot? Umay be'edut echad, and what does it mean that it's going to be 1 edut? Meaning the question of the Gemara is, we just had now, we wanted to make it a machloket between the Tana Kama and Rabbi Yosef. The question is, what does it mean shte eduyot, and what does it mean edut achat? Ilema bishte eduyot mamash, if you're going to tell me it's mamash shte eduyot, and bishte kitot, which means 2 different groups of witnesses, and edut echad means one bevat achat, beze achar ze, one after another. V'amar Rabbi Yosef, and says Rabbi Yosef, be'edut achat bekat achat. When we're talking about edut achat, we're talking about kat achat. Beze achar ze, we're talking about one after another. Ki masadu agneva, v'hada masadu atvicha. When they're going to be testifying the gneva, and then afterwards testifying on the tvicha, ki mitzah me'atvicha, when they're going to be nizom on the tvicha, and they're going to say, Imanu ayitem, edut shebatala mitzata betala kuva, v'itzamu le'u gneva, and then they became also edim zomim on the gneva. So they can't be like that. So mehechi titeah. So how do we know this chidush then? There's no hochacha from the fact that they lied to do the tvicha on Yom Sheni, that they lied on Yom Rishon. Meaning like this, one more time. When I come and I say that edim zomimim it's בטלה עדותם למפרע. למפרע זה מתי שהם שיקרו. אז אם הם שיקרו ביום שני, if they only lied on Yom Shani, whoever told you they lied on Sunday, if they lied on Yom Shani, they probably lied biyom Shlishi, Revi'i, Chamishi, Vahala. Mistama. Why? Because listen, they already lied on Yom Shani. But in Yom Rishon, who told you they lied? So if they didn't lie on Yom Rishon, so how do you prove that then? Doesn't make sense. Elala, but rather, Mishnei Eduyot. Talking about two different testimonies. Be'edut achat ke'en shtei eduyot. So it has to be one edut, which is like two eduyot. What is that? Kat echat, it's going to be one kat, one group of witnesses, but bazeh achar zeh, which means two different zmanim. Aval be'edut echat, but if it's going to be edut echat, bevat achat, right? In all, it's going to be one edut and one bevat achat. I'm not going to say that because basically the edut gneva, right, is not going to be like that. It's not the same thing. But since it's going to be tokeh de dibur, so therefore I'm going to say you're right, right? Edut gneva is going to be batel. The savrua, so we thought to say techule alma, that according to everybody tokeh de dibur kedibur dami. That when it's going to be tokeh de dibur, that is kedibur dibur. Meaning, you know, we also say this in berachot. When you come and you say Baruch Hashem, even though it's not that pashut, we're going to see we're learning Bikin Balacha, but usually the halacha is, right? When you come and you say Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Lecholam, Monagit Shakol, and then I realize it was wine and I change it in the middle, right? So therefore, usually, toch kede dibur ze kedibur dami. That means, what does that mean?
Shalom Aleichem.
Yeah, Shalom Aleichem. That's what omeret. Ze oto davar. Yeah, I change it, no problem. Even though we were learning now Bikin Balacha a little bit differently, whatever, but there was a machlokot, but fine. But what does that mean? Usually that means toch kede dibur ze kedibur dami. So we're thinking to say that toch kede dibur, everybody agrees that it's toch kede dibur is kedibur dami. So my love Bava Kamma Daf. So is that not the machloket between them then? The Rabbanan savre, that the rabbis hold mikanu labahu nifsal. That from now onwards it's going to become pasul. Vekevan demei shata kamitzame. So therefore, since it's going to be nizam, right from that moment, so he comes and he says, right. So there, once it becomes nizam, right from that time, so he comes and he says, so agneve, right. So he comes and he says this. So he says, agneve de lo mitzam elo mitzum. On the gneva, they were not muzman. So Rabbi Yosef Savar lemafrea unisal, it becomes mafrea. The kevin the miyad kiasu de mansila. So immediately once they testify, they become pasul. Ki idzamu lo tvicha, idzamu lo gneva. So therefore, once it becomes zomem on the tvicha, they become the zomem on the gneva. To talk de dibur, kedibur dami, because talk de dibur, they become right kedibur. So says the Gemara, Amri, they said, if you're going to tell me that talk de dibur is a kedibur, dechule alma lemafrea hu nifsal. According to everybody, it becomes pasul mafrea. Elahacha, but here the talk de dibur kedibur dami kamipalge. The machloket is, do we say? Meaning, at the beginning we thought in the Havamina that according to everybody, talk de dibur is kedibur. Now we're saying that's a machloket between them. Rabbanan savre talk de dibur ayin gimel amubet is lav kedibur dami, and Rabbi Yosef so holds talk de kedibur is kedibur dami. So, Kal Kadosh, we're continuing with the Ayin Gimel Amud Bet, the Gemara on 73b. The Gemara asks, the Sava Rabbi Yosef, does Rabbi Yosef hold Toke de Dibur Kedibur Dami, that if you said something Toke de Dibur, that's considered Kedibur, which means that if, remember, the Shalom Alecha Rabbi is the 2-3 seconds, whatever it is, that basically that if you retract on your words, usually in the majority of cases it works. And therefore, even if I said A, I could retract and say, no, B. Right? Because it depends on, you know, how it is, how the question, and so on and so forth. Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Harezo Tmurat Ola, or Tmurat Shlamim, or Harezo Tmurat Ola. Imagine a person comes and he says, this is a Tmurat Ola, Tmurat Shlamim. Now, one second, it's either an Ola or a Shlamim, it cannot be both. So, what is it? Says Rabbi Meir, Tmurat Ola. You go up to the first thing that you said. Tivrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yosef says, if that was the kavanah, so since you cannot make it an olah and a shlamim, because remember, each one is contradictory. An olah is kadashim kadashim, shlamim is kadashim kalim, right? Olah is kulo kalil, the entire thing is burnt. A shlamim, part of it goes to the baalim, and they go, which one? On different things, on different reasons. Right? A shlamim is a peace offering. You bring that certain times. But the olah is a burnt offering. Usually it's for kapara, for positive commandments, or for other things. No, not negative. Right? But it's for positive commandments. Al machshava. One second. So now he says chatat is machshava. Dvarav kayamim. What does it mean, dvarav kayamim? So he says, so therefore it's going to be good. Why? It's going to be as an olah, right? He says half and half. Ve'im amar, right? And if he's going to say, is it tmunat olah? And then he says tmunat shlamim, it's tmunat olah. Va'avina. So we ask 1 second. Nimlach, pshita, obviously if you changed your mind, obviously, right, it's not going to be chal. So then what's the chidush then? Ve'amar Rav Papa says, we're talking about nimlach toch kedei dibur kamina. We're talking about Rabbi Yosef was talking about that you were nimlach toch kedei dibur. Now, if you're going to come and tell me that it was nimlach toch kedei dibur, Rabbi Yosef is coming to teach you that a person cannot retract and change even toch kedei dibur. So therefore, it comes out that according to Rabbi Yosef, toch kedei dibur is not kedibur dami. So how could you tell me that toch kedei dibur is dibur? It's not true. You cannot retract. So Amri, the Gemara answers, Trei toch kedei dibur havi. Do you know that there's 2 toch kedei diburs? There's chad kedei she'elat talmid l'rav. One of them is for the talmid to ask from a rabbi. The chad kedei she'elat rav l'talmid. And one of them is for the rabbi to say shalom to the student. Kilet le Rabbi Yosef. When does Rabbi Yosef say that toch kedei dibur is not like kedei dibur dami? He says kedei she'elat talmid l'rav, which is shalom alecha Rabbi umori. Dinafish, because it's longer. Yeah? Imagine, right? That means they had a certain awe for the rabbi. So when they used to come and address, it wasn't just some shalom. It was shalom alecha Rabbi umori. That's the way it should be. Yeah? But the Rav to the Talmid, what does it say? Shalom alecha. Shalom. Yeah? Shalom alecha. That's what he says. Yeah? Itle. There he does all that. So therefore, what the Gemara is saying is, according to Rabbi Yosef, right? Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He comes and he says, right, like this. He comes and he says like this. He says like this. He says that when does he hold toch kedei dibur kedibur dami? Shalom alecha. That's shalom. Ze yoter katzar. Right? Right? If it says shalom alecha Rabbi Mori, no, doesn't help. Now, how long does it take for the extra Rabbi Mori? Another second, yeah, or something like that. But that's what he holds. Right? If it's too long or shorter, okay, capish until here we're clear. Okay.
זה לא רבי יוסי, כן?
זה רבי יוסי.
זה רבי יוסי. שהוא דוד.
Yes. Amar Rava, says Rava.
בסוף אנחנו לא הולכים לפה.
One second. Amar Rava comes and he says, Edim שהוכחשו ולבסוף הוזמו. When you have Edim, that at the beginning they were hukhash, and then afterwards were muzam, neragim. They are going to be killed. What is hakasha and what is hazama? So hazama means that.
הם באו לעשות זימון, באו לעשות...
ומה זה החשש?
הם מקרישים את העדים, מקרישים את זה, לא אומר שבאו לעשות רע, זה אחרת. אחרת.
No. So let me explain. Right? אולי זה הכוונה שלך, but I don't know. Listen carefully. Right? Hakasha means 2 witnesses come and say he killed. Another 2 witnesses come and said he didn't kill. Did the second...
לא אמרו מי.
לא שלא אמרו מי.
הם הכחישו.
הם לא אומרים שום דבר על העדים הראשונים. בגלל זה לא קשור. זאת אומרת, it means to say that 2 witnesses come and say A killed B. The other witnesses are not coming and saying, how did you guys testify? You guys were in Honolulu. You guys are shakranim. No. 2 other witnesses come and say, Hachasha. What is Hachasha? Lachish. Lachish, lo lakish. Lachish. It's, I don't know.
לא, הוא בא אומר לך, זה לא היה... העדות שלי אומרת שהוא לא רצה.
בדיוק.
זה הכל.
אני הייתי איתו כל הזמן, והוא לא הרג. I was in with the entire time and he didn't kill. That's called a chasha. Hazama is that you guys are false witnesses. That's hazama. So therefore, when you do a chasha, you destroy the edut because 2 said one thing, 2 said a thing, but nothing happens to anybody. Biglal batel, everything becomes an el. Hazama, you have to do kasher zamam, kasher, right? You have to give him the punishment that he wanted, because he's a false witness. So therefore, that's the difference between hachasha and hazama. Okay? Very big difference. One more time. Hachasha is Right? Nothing to do with lechatchila. No, nothing to do with lechatchila. Right? Nothing to do with lechatchila. Hachasha means, right? You have your word against the other word. It's the conflicting evidence. That's what they say in
testimony.
Or conflicting testimony in this case, right? Many times you have conflicting evidence, meaning two evidences which are one against the other, and so conflicting testimony. This is conflicting testimony, but it does not mean that one of them is a liar and one not. We don't know who it is, but we didn't prove it. Yeah. We don't know. So that's called hachasha. Hazama is you come and you say, what are you talking about? You said you guys are shakrani. And therefore, obviously, he gets in trouble. So here the Gemara says, Rava says, if you have a deem that at the beginning, they were muchash. So they went and they said that the guy stole. Out of the two witnesses came and said, no, I was with the guy the entire time, he did not steal. That's called hachasha. But then 10 minutes later came another group of witnesses. And they said, how did you guys even testify that he stole? You guys weren't מאיפה?
אז רגע, אז עכשיו, רגע.
יפו.
אז עכשיו זה לא המקרה, זה עליהם עכשיו.
זה עליהם, זה הזמה, ודאי. הזמה זה עליהם.
הזמה, כן.
הזמה, yeah? So therefore, at the beginning was החשה, at the end was הזמה.
החשה על המקרה, אז על העידור, על
Yes, נהרגים, they are killed. Why are the עדים זוממים killed? The החשה, תחילת הזמה הוא. Because החשה is the beginning of הזמה. Meaning it's the first process. The first process is hachasha and then hazama. But it didn't finish. Meaning, when you want to come and you want to start making a din meaning, usually the first step is that two witnesses come and they say, I don't know about you guys, but there's something fishy here. Yeah, there's something fishy here because I was with the guy the entire day and he did not kill. So unless I don't know what, there's a problem here. So that's the beginning of the hazama. Okay? So Amar Rava comes and he says, how do I know this? The time we learned to the Braita. Meidanu beishploni shesime et enavdo v'yipil et shino. Sharei harav omer ken v'nimseu zomemin meshalmi dme ayin le'eved. So it comes out like this. He says, what happens right now if edim come and they say that they testify about a certain person that he went and he took out the eye of his slave or took out the tooth of his slave. Now, right? What happens when he took out the eye? When he took out the eye, אתה שומע או לא? איווה.
תקשיב.
Yeah? When he took out the eye, what happens to the slave?
It's free.
חזק ברוך. He becomes free. The second that he took out the eye, he becomes free. Now when he took out the tooth afterwards, what happens?
לא, רק אם הבעל הבית עשה לו את זה.
כן, זה מה שאנחנו מדברים.
כן, לא באופן כזה.
Yeah? What happens now? When he took out the shen, now he has to pay the shen. So now he comes and he says like this. He says, Harav, right? Sharei harav omer ken. It's noach lo ba'adon, right? It's good to the adon, right? This edut. The Gemara is going to say, why is it good for the master? This type of an edut, but we're going to have to see why. But the Gemara then says, they were found to be zomimim. So what do they have to do? They have to pay the me'ayin to the eved. Now it's very interesting. Did you realize they have to pay the me'ayin, not the me'shem? Right, the me'ayin of the eye, not of the tooth. So first we have to analyze the case, and then we're going to go back. So the Gemara says, what is the case exactly? If you're going to tell me now, right? If you're going to tell me now, kidiktani, right, like we learned, right? That there's no other two witnesses. Why are you going to have to pay this me'ayin la'eved? But once he goes out free, right? You're going to tell me now he has to pay the ayin? It doesn't make sense. Then furthermore, he has to pay the entire thing to the master, right? Why? Because he just put the guy free. If somebody comes and says that I took out my eved's eye or tooth, what happens? He goes free. So that means he just made me lose my entire equity of an eved. Beforehand, I had an eved. Now I lost the eved. So this guy should pay me the entire eved. Not only just so first of all, why are you paying to the eved anyway? That's number one, right? Number two, you should pay me the entire amount. Number two. And number three, what's the mean harav omer ken? What do you mean it's good for the rabbi that he said such a thing? Why is it good for the master? Right? Here the Rav doesn't mean the rabbi. Here the Rav is the master, right? Which means that the master, why is it good for the master? That good for the balabait. Why? How does it make sense? So says the Gemara, he going down to Trey. Two witnesses come. The Amri and they said, he pilit sheno, simeteno. So the truth is, we flipped the case. No, but he flipped the case. We spoke about We spoke about ayin and then shen. Now he's coming and saying the opposite. Shen and the ayin. Right now, one second. So yes, the bayi meitavle harav, that the adon is going to be chayav to pay him dme eno. Because that was the first question that I asked you. I asked you if he became free with his eye, so now he has to pay the tooth. But he came and he says you have to pay the eye. Why the eye? The tooth, not the eye. So now he's flipped it. So now it makes sense, at least that part, right? Now he says, so that's why he has to pay the me'eno. Ve'atu betre mitziata comes the second group of witnesses. The amni, and they said, eno, the hadar shino. First it's the ayin, and then it's the shen. Tela ba'ile meitavle, right? That he doesn't have to give him ela shino, only the shen. So something very interesting. The second group of witnesses come and they say it was first the eye and then the shen. That means flip the case. They both agree it was the shen the ayin. The question is which one came first? Was it first the eye and then the tooth, or the tooth and then the eye? That's what's going on. Okay. So he says,
what's the difference if it's
well, what's he going to pay afterwards? The value of the eye or the value of the tooth?
which is worse? Yeah.
Well, obviously, there's a difference. There's a difference in value. Obviously.
But
okay?
I think it's
one second. Yeah. So now he comes and he says, so he comes and he says that there's a chasha between the first two witnesses, meaning the first set of witnesses, second set of witnesses. There's a chasha. Why is there a chasha? They're not disagreeing on that he did it. They're disagreeing on the order of events, but that's in itself called the chasha. And that's what it means. Which means it's good what they said, that they're actually minimizing the dme ayin to meshen, which means a person's eye is obviously much more valuable than a person's tooth. And therefore, if a person made somebody blind, it's a much more monetary compensation, right, than the tooth. So therefore, it's better for the master, right, that they said such a thing. But we did say, they have to pay dme ayin to the eved. Why? Because since they were zomem to make him mafsid, right, that the fact of the ayin before, right, la palat Hashem. So Shema Mina, we learn from here, hachasha is tchilat hazamahi. Meaning, even though at the beginning it started as hachasha, because these two the middle witnesses were doing a chasha to the first two witnesses, right? So, but that's tchilat hazamah, and you see that that's tchilat hazamah. Because if not, then they wouldn't actually obviously pay, right? Make them pay. So says the Gemara, Rabbi says, no, it's not true. Ta'abchinhu v'azminhu. What does that mean? The second adim came, and they just switched the order from the first one, and therefore he comes and he says, right, that that day that you guys are saying, if it happened on a different day and in a different seder, so then really be'emet, it would not be the same thing. So therefore, it's only because everything happened on the same day. The only thing is that it'll keep on a different thing, right? A different order. So that's why it's like that. But if it would be different days and everything else, it would be completely different halakha. Completely different. Okay? So says the Gemara, how do you know this? Mideseifa in Daled Amud from the top. He says Mideseifa memepach v'azama. Since the seif of the Braita we're talking about, you have to switch it around, and we're talking about zama. Reisha nami b'mepach v'azama. So to the Reisha is also talking about b'mepach v'azama. Tiktani seifa, because we learned in the seifa meidanu yitish ploni sheipil et shenav dov v'simetino. Right? He comes and he says that he comes and he made him. Right? He comes and he made him. How do you call this? Right? He made him blind, or he took out his eye. Right, or he took out the tooth. So now it comes out that they became medim zumim. They're going to have to pay the dme ayin to the rabbi. Okay, and with this we're going to finish here.